As many college students do, I practically lived off fast food and pizza delivery during my years as an undergraduate. I went to a school in my hometown, so luckily enough for me, I didn't have to live on campus and suffer through the cafeteria on a daily basis. But nonetheless, my eating habits usually involve a lot of things fried in grease, covered in cheese. Of course, back in my early 20s, I had a metabolism to handle it. Now, in my late 30s, I have sworn off fast food forever. Yet, before you praise me for my healthy lifestyles, please understand I don't do it for my health. I lived in a small apartment back in those days, at a typical student dwelling, aborted with garage sales, furniture, and movie posters. It was a humble place, but it had an expensive, so I didn't have to get a roommate, and in a great part of town, surrounded by shopping and restaurants. Since my apartment was on the bottom floor, it was uncommon for me to get home from time to time with advertisements taped to my door, hung or on my doorknob from local businesses. I would often find coupons and takeout menus, and by now I had amassed quite a collection. I was familiar with just about every restaurant in my neighborhood. I knew which ones delivered and which ones didn't. I knew which ones stayed open late and which ones were fast or slow or overpriced. I guess you could say I order out far too often. One night, as I was studying for an exam in the late hours of the night, my stomach began that all too familiar rumbling that had so many times before, disrupting my ability to concentrate as usual. I had been so warmed up in my preparing for the finals that I had forgotten to eat dinner, and as usual, I would report some late night deliveries. It was approaching midnight, so I knew a lot of my regular places would be closed by now, especially being in weekends, and I shuffled through the collection of takeout menus in the kitchen drawer, trying to decide who to call. The ones place that delivered this late were pizza joints, and I just wasn't in the mood for pizza. Not again. I was about to give up and just dial the nearest pizza place when I was upon an advertisement I hadn't seen before, or at least I didn't remember having seen before. It was just a square piece of glossy paper that looked as if it had been torn from a magazine or one of those inserts they put in the newspapers. Strangely, I didn't remember having torn this out. But then again, I had been in a fog of concept studying for my nearly 2 weeks, so perhaps I had saved this one and just had forgotten about it. The ad featured a cartoonish clown mascot holding balloons. Besides him was a comic-style speech bubble with the word Carnival Burgers. Now open to 3:30 a.m., we deliver. Beneath the speech bubble was a telephone number. I had never heard of Carnival Burgers before. Was it a new place? I have reservation about ordering a burger by delivery, but I thought, why not? I mean, how bad could you had to mess up with the burger? I dialed the number. It rang only before, and a voice picked up on the other end. Thanks for calling Carnival Burgers. Would you like to try our special house burgers? The voice sounded almost electronic, but like it was pre-recorded. No thanks, I said. I'd like to place an order for delivery. Excellent. I would happy to take your order, sir. The electronic voice replied in a far too upbeat manner. What would you like? I'll take a hamburger with cheese, pickles, lettuce, onions, and tomatoes. A set of fries. Would you like mustard, mayonnaise, or a special house sauce? Mustard, please. Excellent. Your order will arrive shortly. Thank you for calling Carnival Burgers. The line then disconnected. I figured the person on the other end must have accidentally hung up. I hadn't given them my address or my payment information, and the voice hadn't given me my total. I dialed the number again to complete the order. This time, it just kept ringing. I let it ring what felt like a solid 5 minutes. When no one answered, I hung up and dialed it again. The same thing happened. The phone just kept ringing. I thought maybe they were busy, which would have been odd being so late in the middle of the week. But maybe their burgers were just that good, and maybe I just haven't gotten lucky getting through this first time. Doubtful, I tried one more time. Finally, after about the third ring, the line picked up the same electronic voice spoke, but this time it sounded slower and deeper, like the recording had been slowed down. "Thank you for calling Carnival Burgers. What would you like to try? Our special house burgers?" "No thanks, I actually called a while ago. I think the line was disconnected. I never gave you my address." "No worries, Jake," the slower voice replied. "Your order's on its way." Click. I never gave them my name. I was suddenly hit with a wave of confusion mixed with uneasiness. My local brain began to wave at Skinner in which they could know my name without me having given it to them. Maybe I have ordered from this place before and I just didn't remember. Maybe they had some sort of number recognition software on their phone system so that repeat customers could be displayed, or a database or a caller ID of some sort. Maybe that's also why they didn't ask for my address. Perhaps it was already on the file from previous orders, or maybe I didn't give them my name and I just had mistaken thinking that I didn't. As much I wanted to explanation to make sense, I never knew order from them before. I can be absent-minded at times and forgetful, but not that forgetful. I had never heard of this restaurant before, but I did not have that ad in my drawer. I decided the most logical answer was the best one, and that I certainly must have ordered from them before. Despite having talked myself to conclusion, I felt uneasy and I wanted to I waited for them to knock on my door. I could not focus from all my studying, so I turned on the television to break suddenly overwhelming silence of my apartment. I flipped through the channels. Being a broke college student, I couldn't afford cable in my late nights of TV choices. Consider information, regulations, programming, and talk show reruns. I settled on some trashy talk show where the host was telling people who was their father. When the TV signals was cut in a static, a commercial popped up on the screen. It was snowy and had a sound quality was poor. A clown like the one on print an ad danced in front of a small building with a sign on it reading Carnival Burgers. The same electronic overly peppy voice spoke, "Come to Carnival Burgers, where the fun never stops." Now, offering delivery, a number flashed on the bottom of the screen. The static displayed at the screen returned to normal. I turned off the TV. Just as the TV clicked off, there was a knock on my door. I hastily approached and peeked through the peephole to see a clown, balloons in one hand, and one paper bag with the Carnival Burgers printed on the other. I gulped, took a deep breath, and opened the door. The clown smiled and said, "That would be $8.66, please." It was the same electronic voice from the phone. I pulled a $10 bill out of my back pocket and handed it to him. "Keep the change," I said, trying to mask my nervousness. "Thank you. Enjoy your order. Please call us again. Next time, try our special house burgers." The clown handed me the paper bag. I took the bag and thanked him. He stood there uncomfortably long time. There was an awkward period of silence as he just stared at me and slowly closed the door. I thought that maybe I should have asked him how he knew my name and address, but I let it go. I waited a moment, then looked out my peephole. He was gone. I had been so hungry earlier, but now I hardly wanted to eat. I opened my bag and found nothing unusual inside. It was my order. Just a hamburger with cheese, pickles, lettuce, onions, tomatoes, and mustard with a side of fries. It was warm and smelled good. I felt my uneasiness damaged and my hunger returned. I ate my burger and fries, and it was actually quite decent. It wasn't the best burger I ever had, but clearly not terrible. After eating it, I studied a little longer, crashing about 2 a.m. A few days later, it was the weekend, and I was driving home to my parents' house to spend the weekend with them. A couple of days of my mom home-cooked meals, and I had my own comfy bed was just the thing I needed before the final weeks. They lived in town, so it wasn't a long drive. I liked to visit them when I could. As I was driving, I came across some road construction. I followed the detour signs in an off-road that I unfamiliar with. I was a great kid, but I said that it was really short drive. This small detour wouldn't make much of a difference. The detour guided me to the old resigned neighborhood. That there was any business, just all houses, a small park, and then there was on the corner of instructions. It was the building I had seen in the television ad, Carnival Burgers. I pulled into the parking lot and stopped. It was certainly the same building, but unlike the one in the ad, it was an old and run down. The painted sign was faded and covered in dirt. Some of the windows had been broken out and replaced with boards. It looked like as if it had been abandoned for years. I got out my car and peered through one of the windows. Inside were booths and tables blinked with dust. There were cracks in the walls, cobwebs driving small amounts of furniture still left inside it in one in the corner, and plastic statue of a smiling clown holding a chalkboard menu with the now barely labeled words, asked about the special house burgers. I felt weak in my knees, as a pain in my chest that could have been the same place. Once again, my local mind began recognize the situation that also was just an old abandoned location. The restaurant had been moved and reopened somewhere else, that there was no now located at sign that had to be it. I got back in my car. I continued to my parents' house. Later that night at dinner, I asked my mother if she had ever heard of this Carnival Burgers. My parents had lived in their entire lives in the same town, so if anyone would know about it, they would. When I asked her, she told me, "Oh yeah, the old burger joint. It was shut down a long time ago. They said for satanic reasons. It was actually a kind of a big deal when we were kids. We all loved going there. Sure, it was kind of a McDonald's knockoff, but it was fun. They had this clown that gave us balloons. What was his name? My father cut in Gersero because of that weird voice of his, some sort of electronic voice box. I thought it was creepy. I thought it was funny. I was sad when it closed down, my mother said. My father counted. They said it was an uncleanish, but the rumors that it shut down because of disappearance. He looked over his glasses and spoke dramatic tone for effect. "Oh, those were just stories the other kids told us to scare us." "What stories?" I asked. My father replied, "They said a lot of people in the neighborhood started going missing, and the only things that cops could find they had in common that was that each one ordered delivery from Carnival burgers on the day they disappeared. Even weird that they were all had ordered the same things, the special house burgers." I decided not to tell my parents about my experiments. I have never eaten fast food since.